It is 5:31. I'd like to call the meeting, the study session to order, please. First on the agenda is public comment period. This is for anyone who has any comments for items not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on down to roundtable discussion amongst council members. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss?
My wife gave me a big, long list, but it has to do with ClickFix, so I won't go into that. One thing she did mention is the township, Allegan Township has hired a full-time code enforcer, and they're using the sheriff's department. Have we looked at anything like that?
Yeah, so we had Tony Cicito. He was retired from the Allegan County Sheriff's Department year and a half ago. And when the city committed to doing a school resource officer, we eliminated that position or that person so we could free up funding for a school resource officer. I have been told under no certain terms that the Allegan County Sheriff's Department will not do code enforcement.
That's what
in
I was
local
told.
municipalities. Local municipalities can contract with the sheriff's department
That's what they did.
for police protection or a dedicated officer. It's like $97,000. Saugatuck does it. Fenville does it. It's $97,000 per officer.
I was today talking, just today,
Yeah.
to one of their representatives from the Allegan Township, and he said they contracted with the county.
Yeah, they probably have a contract.
Specifically,
At one time, a county employee that was on city council oversaw those contracts in that billing process. I don't know if that's still true, but,
specifically for blight,
okay, which, do you remember the township board member you spoke to?
Steve Schultz.
Okay, yeah, I can talk to Steve. We talk often.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I would say that, when we did it, we just hired a retired, officer at that time.
Is that all you have, Bill?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
So I had just a question, as we're doing everything else downtown, where are we at with the refuse enclosures and the,
Yeah, so
all
at
that downtown stuff?
Yeah, so at a previous meeting, we shared with council that we are doing a design build contract. Obviously, we're gonna bring that to council before that's approved, because I believe it was Councilmember Redding who said he'd like to see the designs before we go through with that. We've finalized the location. The DDA recommended we don't start this program until January 1st. So the building is on a calendar year because most businesses operate on a calendar year budget because of taxes. So we are kind of going to be ramping up that program for review and approval, probably late summer, early fall.
Okay, so we haven't seen, like, placement of those that?
Yeah,
you haven't sent-
I
you sent
thought,
that out to
we
us?
showed placement at the last meeting.
I think we've seen
What was it, last
placement.
meeting?
Or was that?
I only remember, I only remember
I
Councilmember
missed a
Redding
meeting.
asking about the final design, wanted to see that
No.
final
I
design.
missed a meeting, maybe you talked
It
about it.
probably is the meeting you missed, yeah.
Probably,
Ben.
okay. I'll expect you to cover the things that I missed at the.
That's okay,
following
you have my
meetings.
phone number. You can call me anytime, any day of the week,
All right,
between the hours of 6 a.m. and 1 a.m. Between 1 and 6, I might be
I'm
sleepy.
gonna stretch those limits.
But I think there was a map in our packet of where the prospective
Yep.
spots were.
Okay, I'll go back and check.
Maybe one of the guys can send it to you. too.
Yeah, and we can send it back to you. I mean,
I haven't. I have
Okay.
all the links.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Anything else, Raj?
I don't think so.
Okay. Mike, do you have anything? No. Okay. Delora?
Shocker. I have
Aye.
nothing.
What are we going to talk about? David, do you have anything?
Nothing right now, thanks.
Okay. I have something I want to ask. The riverfront, there's a big hole. Did they run into a problem down there? Something that,
yeah, so it's a deep sewer to begin with. So there's going to be a big hole regardless. But as
Okay.
they were digging for the sewer line, we ran into two, what we believe were original seawalls. So if you've been fortunate enough to see the pictures of the 1940s, before the Riverfront Park was developed, or the Riverfront parking lot was developed,
Okay.
that river came all the way back to the building. So two seawalls were discovered. We spent probably the past week and a half, 2 weeks, taking our time, investigating the seawalls and solutions. We are going to keep the seawalls in place. One reason we're keeping the seawalls in place is we do not want to disturb the soil behind those buildings out of caution that if we remove a seawall, the earth may shift a little bit and those buildings may shift. So we are keeping the seawalls in place. This has resulted in us having to do some redesign of that sewer main. We are still going to be able to accomplish our goal of abandoning the two sewers that are underneath the two buildings. So we have a sewer under ATEC that we wanted to abandon, and a sewer under Tantric that we wanted to abandon. So we're still going to be able to abandon those and accomplish the goal. That's the main reason why we're replacing that sewer line to begin with, or we want to be on the riverfront.
Okay.
So tomorrow, they will be going through and ripping up some sidewalk along that area. I know there's a big hole, but they're going to continue ripping up the sidewalk and start with this new plan of realigning our sewer line, or sewer main in that area.
Okay.
But it is a very big hole. Friday night, I think, did I see you Friday night?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Friday night. I saw you down on the riverfront.
Right, what was it?
They were dewatering the hole where the new manhole was going. So we had a water pump in the ground, or not we, but Millbacher had a water pump in the ground. They were dewatering it.
Yeah.
And staff was working with them because the first outfall they had was just creating a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And they had it running across the parking lot. And I was like, we can't have this run across the parking lot. People walk through here all the time, so.
Oh, okay.
But it was
Yeah.
a mess.
Yeah, it was, but that's okay. I forgot you had told me about the seawalls, but I didn't know that's where the hole was. How about, do we have a status, or do we get involved in the house on River Street that burnt? Do we have any idea what's going on with that?
So today, Ryan Berza and I were out picking up signs in the right-of-way. And we drove down the river, and it triggered my brain again. I was
Okay.
like, so I'm gonna reach out to Nick Brink, find out where we are in the fire investigation. There's a process that, the fire district has to go through, insurances have to go through
Okay.
before we get to get in and say, this house is coming down. But we should be wrapping that up. So I will be following up with Nick tomorrow, and I can follow up with council after I hear from Nick.
Okay, all right, thank you, Joel.
Yes.
And then, one last thing, this is for council, we have the manager's evaluation coming up. We need to have that done by the beginning of September. So I would like to know, I'm gonna be sending out, we're gonna use the same evaluation we used last year. Pretty straightforward, and I don't think it's new. Nope, everybody was here last year, so I'm gonna send that out, and then we need to set up a meeting when we wanna go over that. So is there any night, probably towards the middle of August, towards the end of August, that anybody's not available? Maybe I know some Wednesdays, Joel and Parker have meetings. Of course, Parker won't be here, but,
Yeah, we meet on the second Wednesday for public spaces.
yeah, okay, and Bill would be to that. So is there any night that you guys wouldn't be
I don't
available?
have my schedule with me, so I don't know. It's on my
Okay,
phone.
maybe what I'll do, Wednesday or Thursday, probably. How about this? What if I just throw a couple dates at you guys and you tell me what works? Will that work? Okay.
17th will not work for me.
The 17th will not, okay. All right. Yeah, Delora.
Just on that topic, I know last year we had done the 360 review. Is that what we're planning to continue and do the surveys for staff again?
I wasn't planning on it because I didn't think it was that useful, but I guess that's what everybody else thinks. Did you find that useful? I mean, I guess we can. Michaela headed that up, didn't she? Is that something you can easily do again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I mean, if you guys feel it's necessary, doesn't really matter to me either way, I just,
For myself, speaking for myself, I did find it pretty useful, and then we can kind of start tracking to see if there are areas of concern, if, in the past year, those have
If
been
people have
addressed or
kinda
things.
changed or-
have
okay.
changed some
I'd like
of
to see if there's
the
any changes
opinions.
between,
Yeah.
that's what I'd like
But
to
that,
see.
that would be up to full council as a
Okay.
discussion.
all right, yeah,
I'm okay with that.
yeah, okay, yeah. So Michaela, if you'd like to do that and maybe set a deadline, probably won't be before August 15th that we meet, because that's only a few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I
And
can do
then
that.
have them back and do the same thing you did last year.
Sure,
Thank you very much.
no problem.
Okay. Guess that's all I had. So, anybody have anything else? Okay. Next on the agenda is a presentation by Lakeshore Advantage. If you'd like to step up to the podium, please.
Excellent. Let me just make sure this, look at that. Perfect. Good evening. I am Mandy Cooper. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at Lakeshore Advantage. I've been with Lakeshore Advantage for almost 5 years now. I think this is my second time giving this presentation to this full group. I was here last year as well. I know you've seen some other members of our team over the years. Just to start a little bit about our organization. I'm hitting it the wrong way. Up. It was working. Oh, there we go. I just have to be more aggressive in how I push the button. So Lakeshore Advantage was started 20 years ago. We celebrated our 20th anniversary this year. So we're actually a fairly young nonprofit organization. We are the economic development organization that serves Ottawa and Allegan counties. We've been contracted by Allegan County for the last almost 6 years now. As I said, established in 2003, and we are led by a 19-member board of directors. Our board is primarily made up of private sector representatives, although we do have both county administrators from Allegan and Ottawa on our board. They help direct our work, and our team works under the leadership of Jennifer Owens, who is our president. We are unique in that we are laser focused on primary employers. So you've heard this spiel before. I'm going to give it again because it's worth reminding. A primary employer is a business that does more sales outside of the region than inside of the region. So think of like a manufacturer, agribusiness, tech companies, food processors. The reason why economic development organizations like Lakeshore Advantage focus on primary employers, there's really two. First, they bring wealth into our communities, so they do sales outside, that money comes into our area, and then our main streets, our service sector, business providers, they help keep that money here. And second, primary employers, for the most part, can be located anywhere. And so if you've ever been through a phase of development where you've lost a key employer, for us in 2003, it was the Lifesavers Company back in Holland. That's really what instigated the start of Lakeshore Advantage. You know the devastating impact that can have on a community, as well as when you have a thriving primary employer that is growing and providing great paying jobs, and it increases the quality of life in the community. It shores up the tax base for the community, and it supports philanthropic needs. So again, when we talk about the businesses we serve, they are primary employers, which means you'll hear a lot about manufacturers in particular when we talk about our work, because many of the primary employers here on the Lakeshore are manufacturers. So our core focus, this is a bit new for us, so if I stumble through the language, it's because I'm still getting used to it. I mentioned we just redid our logo. We've also changed how we explain our work. And explaining economic development is always a bit of a challenge because it's pretty comprehensive. But we really look at it as three main pieces. So we grow that primary employer business base that I just mentioned. We plan for long-term economic health, and we solve economic challenges. And now I'm going to walk through some of the ways that's shown up in our work over the past year, because this is our opportunity to show to you how your investment in Lakeshore Advantage has helped grow our community's economic health. So first, grow our primary business base. So in 2022, we worked on 33 business expansion projects. That is actually almost double what we saw the previous year, and significantly increased over any of our other years on record. There was a lot of growth here on the Lakeshore, include about half were actually in Allegan County itself. I don't believe we had a project in the city of Allegan last year, which doesn't mean businesses weren't growing, but that they didn't do a significant expansion that required our assistance. 2.3 billion of private investment accompanied those expansions, largely driven, like the big $1 billion number, because of the LG expansion that happened up in southern Holland area, northern Allegan County. But even beyond that, again, record-setting investment was seen here across the Lakeshore in the private sector, along with new and retained jobs. So again, really a big year of investment. When we look just in Allegan County itself, 551 million of that was from that, from Allegan County, a large part of that from LG, but there were several others. I've included in your packets, which are on your table, the full list of projects, so you can kind of peruse that and see the breakdown. While there were some biggies, there were also a lot of small to mid-sized projects, which is where we consistently see growth historically. And really, those are the companies we are really excited to support, our small to mid-sized companies. As far as the city of Allegan goes, so we have in our records 12 primary employers that are actually located within the city limits. Those numbers change as employers grow. Maybe they shut their doors. We have a new one come to town. One of the requests we always have for our municipal partners is if you have a new business that arrives, that opens its doors, let us know, or tell us so we can go introduce ourselves, help us make an introduction, so that we can touch base with them. That grow piece, the reason that we get engaged with primary employers is we are constantly reaching out and connecting with them through something we call retention visits. This is a core economic development activity. We are meeting with companies on a daily basis across the whole region to say, how are things going? What are your needs? What are your challenges? Can we help you with anything? Of the 12, there are 12 primary employers in the city of Allegan, and we've had 19 interactions in the past year. So a few of those were duplicates if we're working with a company that maybe has had a couple of different issues or opportunities they want our help on. But we want to see those numbers continue to grow. We love it when companies want our help, and we answer the phone when they call. I do know we have 2 retention visits coming up in the near term that we typically loop the city manager in on when we get those scheduled, just so he has an idea of where we are and what we're doing. So we'll have an update if any of those lead to expansions in the future. I mentioned we had a really record year last year with 33 total projects. Our pipeline right now is we have 22 in the pipeline, and those are active and qualified prospects, meaning they're actually moving forward. These aren't just being discussed, there's planning in place. Of those, 4 are in Allegan County, and I believe 1 is actually in southern Allegan County, not in the city of Allegan, but in the southern part. One of the questions we often get is, well, is that just Holland, or is growth happening everywhere? And the good news is growth is happening everywhere, but particularly, as we said, in that lower southern part of Holland, there's been a lot of development. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we can continue to make sure that stretches southward as well. We also work with startups. So we work with primary employers, startups to grown-ups. So we've been in startup support work for 8 years now, give or take. Our startup programming is called Surge, and that is largely funded through the Smart Zone in Holland. So there's TIF capture that helps fund that work. Last year, we opened a pilot business incubator in downtown Holland where we could center that work, where those startups could come physically, be engaged in our programming, and also to have support services, mentors that also work in that space. Our goal at the outset was to have around 15 to 20. Currently, we have 37 members, which is really exciting. We really believed it was something that was needed here on the Lakeshore and would have been affirmed by even that kind of a quiet launch of that business incubator. We've navigated 60 different startups in the past year, 53 different programs and events, and this is actually a really impactful number, $31 million in startup capital raised. For comparison, when we started this work, our first year, we were targeting $300,000 for our startups. So we have not provided all that funding. We've supported the startups as they pursue it. Some of it has come through grants that we help administer, but that's from across the board, but the startups that we are actively supporting. So, and again, you know, that's so important because they're our next big primary employers, right? When you think about the Paragos, the Gentexes, the Miller Knowles, they started with an idea, a product that then grew. The second piece is plans. So we're always looking forward. We do that in a lot of different ways. We have a strategic planning process, but a big piece of that is really working with our partners. So we talk with employers consistently, and we're also engaged with strategic partners, including here in the city of Allegan. For example, so I have quarterly meetings with city manager to say what's going on, how are things going, is there anything we can help you with? Another example is we supported on the recent RAP, the Revitalization and Placemaking Subgrant with the Right Place out of Grand Rapids. We submitted that grant, excited that the city of Allegan is included in that grant. We had some wonderful projects submitted, and city of Allegan was selected to be part of that grant application. We're going to keep our fingers crossed for the next few months. Hopefully we get funded. We helped secure $75,000 in funding for a planning grant for Allegan and Ottawa childcare that launched about 2 months ago. The OAISD, the Ottawa Area Intermediate School District, is leading on that, but in coordination with Great Start out of Allegan. And that's really a technical assistance grant helping to identify what the need is, hopefully opens the door for follow-on funding down the road. We participate in the broadband work group here in Allegan County, support on the Allegan County Housing Needs Assessment. We've been super engaged in the ozone non-attainment issue, which really doesn't hit the city of Allegan. It's just outside. It's the western part of Allegan County, but because ozone levels have been too high, there have been added stipulations put on industry, transportation that have dollar impact for investment in what companies need to do to meet those. So we've been engaged in that. And also regional site readiness. So identifying sites for employers to expand. One of the reasons we see so much expansion on the south side of Holland is because they've had industrial sites that were ready to go, that had utilities, infrastructure in place. So we're constantly looking for where is the next location that employers could grow. We are currently, let me move on. So it is one of the top barriers of growth. There's very low industrial occupancy here on the Lakeshore. And so finding sites that are easy to get to a point where they're shovel ready has been a high priority both at the state level and regionally and locally. So we've been working with regional partners to help identify what are the sites here in West Michigan that if state funding became available could be brought online quickly. This is a site in Dorr. We have 5 top sites in West Michigan. One is in Dorr, one is in Allendale. We started with around 100. So again, just an example of the type of work we're doing to ensure a healthy economy long term and ensure growth is possible. Another example is we're hosting a developer day. So this is, you can go to our website. Information on this event is online. It is really targeted to developers, construction, industry professionals who are interested in best practices of development, shovel-ready sites that are available, And we will be featuring property here in the city of Allegan. Special thanks to your city manager for helping us to coordinate this. Also excited to start at the casino and with the Gun Lake Tribe, and to have the tribe host a happy hour afterwards. We'll also be taking a look at some of the development projects that they're working on. So this is like a 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. event. Registration is open if you know anybody in that industry that would like to check some of this out. We'll also be stopping at Gentex and the J.H. Campbell Power Plant up in Port Sheldon Township that is shutting down. So again, just trying to make sure we're sharing the opportunities available. And then finally, on the plan side, a couple weeks ago, we were really excited after our 20th anniversary celebration to announce that we're going to take our pilot business incubator and make it permanent. And that will be located in the next center. This will be in downtown Holland. It's at the corner of 7th and College. It is in the smart zone, which is really important for the funding model. On that first floor will be the pilot business incubator, and that is actually, really intentional. There is a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem here on the Lakeshore, but it's really hidden. And so we really wanted to bring it down to ground level so people could literally see that there's some cool, exciting, innovative stuff happening. So that will be located on the ground level, as well as some community space, learning labs, so we can do more education events and also invite partners in to utilize that space. Our headquarters for Lakeshore Advantage will also be located there on the second floor, along with some space for startups that grow to a second stage company. Because our goal is that they don't remain startups, that they become revenue generating, they can get to commercialization. So, and then on the third floor will be space for a tenant that is somehow tied to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So the whole intent of this hub, we're calling it a hub for innovation and entrepreneurship, is that we really center those activities, because really it's supporting the whole ecosystem that will make our entrepreneurs successful. It can also be a talent attraction tool and an investment tool. When there's a lot of entrepreneurial activity, investors see that, and that's where they'll show up. And then finally, the solve piece of things. So as I mentioned, we meet with companies regularly. Last year, we met with over 120 CEOs and C-level leaders at our primary employers across Allegan and Ottawa counties. Included in your packet is the industry trends report that is really our aggregated data from those interviews that provides us with some insights about what's happening, what our employers are experiencing from a challenge perspective and an opportunity perspective. Encourage you to look at that when you have some time. One of the challenges, and I'm pretty sure I probably talked about it last year too, is talent continues to remain a leading challenge. Again, that's not new. That's been consistent for the past 7 or 8 years, but it has continued. And you don't need to look at the detail of this graphic, but when we think about talent, there's room for everybody to get involved and work to do. So there's Lakeshore Advantage and how we show up. Our employers have a role in solving talent, and so do our partners and local units of government when it comes to place. We also know things like childcare, housing, transportation are key components of ensuring we can provide our employers with the talent they need. So we are constantly assessing what resources are available, if there's gaps and opportunities to figure out what those are, and if there's a way we can impact them, and then sharing best practices. So an example for what this can look like here in the city of Allegan, last year, Joel had reached out to us to say, hey, we need some help. We're looking at placemaking investment, housing, childcare challenges. We'd really love to see some employer engagement in helping us solve these issues. Could you help us navigate that? And of course, we said absolutely. So in a pretty short order, we met with Payroll in particular to talk about here are some of the challenges. Payroll, they named talent as one of their #1 barriers to growth. And so can we come together and figure out, are there ways we can work together to help attract people to the area, make sure they can stay here, thrive here, grow their families here? One of the activities we lined up, and we called in some favors to make this happen, as I said, in pretty short order, is we took the Payroll team, Joel and a few others down to Whirlpool. And we toured their campus, their daycare facility. They talked about what they're doing to attract and retain talent. They were incredibly generous with what they know, what they've invested in, why they've done it, how much they've poured into community development, and shared that with the Perigo executive team. We've had many follow-up conversations since then and continue to have discussions about what that could mean long-term. And I think Joel can speak to more specifics about that, but have been really encouraged by their interest and understanding of what this community needs and where the assistance is required in order to make sure Allegan remains a great place for people to come and start their career and continue their career. And then we show this slide every year. As I mentioned, we really are business focused, and we intentionally look to the private sector to lead on investment for that reason. We want to make sure that our work is really aligned with those primary employer needs. So 60% of our funding from the private sector, 40% from public sector, such as our local units of government, contracts, and grants. Last year, again, a bit of an anomaly because of the incredible LG investment, but every dollar invested in Lakeshore Advantage returned $1,297 in private investment. And again, when we talk about that, it is, isn't it? Please don't compare this year to that, although it's going to be good this year, I think. But, you know, those are projects we are engaged in. These aren't projects that, you know, if a company expands and doesn't work with us, that they decided they didn't need us, or maybe they didn't know about us, which is always our fear, right? I mean, so we're constantly reaching out, hoping employers know. It's possible there's been growth that wasn't included there. The city of Allegan has been a great supporter of Lakeshore Advantages since we came to the county. Your annual investment right now is at $6,250. That's our ask for this year again. We really appreciate the support. The dollars matter a lot. Almost as important is the close relationship we have with the city of Allegan, because it's equipping. Economic development isn't about us. We honestly are connectors to resources, to tools, to people, to say, how do we solve problems together? And it does take both the public and private sector to work. I will say, this has been the level we've been at for the last 5 years. I'm putting a little bit of a question mark there. I think that's how long it's been. I do anticipate we're in the process of assessing investment levels for next year. Our costs, like everybody else's, have gone up over the last 2 years in particular, even though our staff size has pretty much remained the same. We've added maybe 2 people in the past year to our team as we've had to expand our resources. So we may be coming back with an increased ask next year, but we would give some forewarning of that. I know budgets matter, and making sure there's some planning and justification. The requests we make to our local units are all based on a public funding formula we've developed that take into account population size and amount of industrial activity in the community based on equalization reports. I have a really long document with a formula, which I'm sure I'll share when we come back and start talking about what that number might be. I will say the city of Allegan's actual target is supposed to be around 25,000. I'm not anticipating a jump like that for the record, not to scare anybody right now. But, you know, when we started, the idea going, we need to get to know each other, see what value we can bring, and hopefully start moving up closer in that direction long term. So again, I just give that as perspective. Every community, it's up to you what you want to invest in economic development. We don't do a fee for contract in that, you know, we'll do special things for each community. It's consistent across the board, our work. As I said, we're focused on those primary employers and making sure they grow. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. The presentation I just shared is in your packets, as well as I mentioned the industry trends and just a little overview. My card is also in there, and you may reach out to me at any time. And if I can't answer your question, I'll work real hard to find somebody who can.
Thank you, Mandy. Does anybody have any questions for Mandy at this time?
I should know this. Is Lakeshore Advantage a nonprofit?
We are.
501c3?
We are a 501c6.
6.
So if you look at Economic development organizations tend to go 50/50 if they're actually a 501c3 or C6. A C6 is a business association type of nonprofit. So we are looking at the potential for a 501c3 arm, because even our, many of our private sector investors want to fund charitable purpose work, which we do through like a foundation, that sort of thing, and that would be just a tool to be able to do that. But yeah, our core, we are a 501c6.
Okay, thanks.
Could you just share with us that development site you mentioned within the city of Allegan? Like the shovel-ready site? Or
Oh,
Joel, do you know what that
I'll let you.
site is?
And just some backstory and some history on why this relationship is beneficial to the city. So as Mandy mentioned, we reached out when we were talking about placemaking, and Delora, you're part of that team when we, had our first presentation to Perigo. So after that presentation, they reached out and they said, hey, we want to have a larger discussion because we have a lot of other issues that we want to address, like housing and childcare. And that's when I brought Perigo in, and Tony McGee from Abbott Marsh, because he has contacts with Whirlpool and, just his breadth of, touch points that he has. Through that process, we ended up carrying on a conversation with Perigo. They own a handful of land that they don't plan on developing, or they haven't developed. Most recently is the 60 acres that they purchased just outside the city limits, just east of the industrial park. And the city, and that would have been 2017, we sold them land in the industrial park so they would have a connector. So at one of my meetings with some of their, senior leadership team members, I just said, will you guys ever be interested in selling this land? We get site selection emails from Lakeshore Advantage throughout the year. And I'm always like, wow, I really wish we could get, respond to these, but we just don't have available virgin land or even existing buildings that are for sale, with lift docks or, cranes, et cetera. So when I met with the senior leadership team, they said, yeah, they'd be interested in listening to, pitches on that land. Obviously, they're going to do it with a bit of caution, as any business would. But most recently, the Developers Day email went out and said, hey, local communities, if you have a piece of property you would like to highlight to these developers, let us know. I responded in kind to Lakeshore Advantage and said, here's a parcel, here's the acreage, here's, it's next to Class A road frontage, this is the water line, the sewer main, the airport's right down the street, et cetera. If you guys can find a way to get it on your field trip tour, because you're touring all over West Michigan.
Ours is it's Ottawa and Allegan, but we are
Yeah.
really limited, because it's 6 hours, which.
It's 6 hours.
North to south,
Yeah, so
it's a
they're
lot to
starting
get
at Gun
to.
Lake
Yep.
in the morning.
Correct.
And ending at Gun Lake in the afternoon.
Yeah, doing a
So it's a
circuit.
full business tour. So thankfully, they're willing to, put our property on that site. And so that's where that land is located. And that's what we're going to highlight. We have some industrial land, by we, I mean, it's inside the city limits, on Lincoln Road, down by Corky's. Councilmember Hands always points it out to me that but we don't control it. That's privately owned. And it's really not owned by someone who's actively engaged in marketing or wants to develop it. These business one-on-one meetings, the first one I went on was with a business in the industrial park. And the first 10, 15 minutes was that CEO venting and somewhat berating me that I took an industrial park and made it a storage shed place. And even though I could have said, well, that was well before my time, some of those,
Yeah.
some of those, business development meetings really are just letting them, what are your concerns? His concern was, I need to expand, and you have no place for me to expand. Thankfully, we're able to hop across the street. Summit Labs had some land. We gave a variance to our ZBA to allow them to acquire some land over there for storage of outside stuff. But it's been a really good relationship.
I was just going to make a comment about that. I know that
Yeah.
Lakeshore Advantage has provided some invaluable assistance to a couple of our newer businesses, Tantric being one of
Yeah.
those on a couple different levels.
Yep.
So great
Thank
to
you.
get this information. Thank you.
And I will say just to Joel's point, So we also do attraction work, and when Joel's talking about, site selectors looking for locations, we do get contacted by the state or outside developers, parties looking, they want to come to the Lakeshore. The Lakeshore is a great place to have a business. We have thriving businesses. We have great, hardworking employees. Granted, they are, in high demand these days. But 95% of our team's work is on business retention, meaning we are primarily focused on supporting the businesses here. And we support if a site said, if a company says, I want to move to the area, of course, we'll provide them a site to say, here's what's available. But one of the questions we often get from local units of government, are you trying to get businesses to move here? And the answer is, no, we're not trying to get business. We will equip them if they want to come, but our primary goal is to make sure those that are here are able to thrive, so.
Just to add to that on the retention, one of my first, interviews with the, Lakeshore Advantage on these business, meetings, was to advance architectural products in Hamilton. That is where they lease a significant warehouse and production facility. They also have a small office space here in the industrial park here. Matt Krause is their CEO up there. When we did that interview or in that meeting, I just mentioned to him on the side, like, we have a lot of land adjacent to your building that the city owns, that we could sell to you. And then you could own your production facility instead of leasing your production facility. He made the comment back, yeah, but I have all my DNA in this building, to relocate equipment is, and lines is, not an easy task. We continued that conversation with Matt. That conversation resulted in the city selling our land to him for future growth. And 2 years ago, they did that big building, in my opinion, a big building addition. I mean, almost double the size of their footprint here in Allegan. That relationship, that connection would not happen if I wasn't invited to, that business development meeting with, I think it was Greg King at the time.
I believe so, yep.
Yeah. So another kind of just example of those connections. One thing that Mandy and I talk about a lot when it comes to economic development is the long play. Very seldom is it, we meet with, John Doe, and tomorrow John Doe is opening company ABC, and, they're employing 1,000 people. There is this relationship building that happens and this nurturing that happens and this back and forth, to get people comfortable and, help them see the benefit of your community and you see the benefit of their company. It's been very beneficial to staff.
Thank you, Joel, for that.
Agreed, thank you, Joel.
Okay, is there anything else for Mandy? All right, thank you, Mandy.
Thank you so much.
Next in the agenda is discussion regarding the rental inspection and building inspection program. Assuming, Joel, you're going to take this?
Yes, I got this part. So as part of your 23-24 goals, council wants to restart the residential rental inspections program. So we've been talking about this probably for the past several months. The first thing we did is we reached out to the fire district, and I had a handful of meetings with Fire Chief Nick Brink. I made a couple presentations to the fire district board about, is this possible? How would this all work when it's all said and done? As we went through that and Nick put together his numbers, from the beginning, Nick and I agreed that we weren't going to do anything that was going to be a hindrance on the fire department operations or the city's operations, specifically from a fiscal perspective. So we wanted to be really concerned about that process. The funding that the fire department would have needed to do our rental inspections averaged out to $240,000 over a 3-year period. That is fiscally not smart for the city, in my opinion. So that took us to the next step. The next step was talking to private firms out there that specialize in this. We landed very quickly with Safe Built. They are a nationwide firm. They have a presence in West Michigan. In my memo, I reference the city of Decatur and the city of Zeeland. They are cities that are similar to our size. They also do like city of Muskegon, which is 7 times our size, so I didn't throw that one in there. I've talked to the city of Decatur and the city of Zeeland. They both are very satisfied with what Safe Built brings to the table. And so Tracy and I had a couple conversations, and Michaela was part of those meetings as well, with representatives from Safe Built. The caveat with Safe Built is if they're going to do rental inspections, then they also want our building department services as well. We have to take both. I reached out to PCI, who's our current building official firm that we contract with for building services, and I asked again if they would be willing to start rental inspection programs. Their response was the same. In 2016, when, this is before me, when City Council hired them as the new building official, they told the city at that time they will not do rental inspections, and that stance has not changed. So if council, if we are focused on doing rental inspection programs, Safe Built is able to come in and get the program up and running. The interesting thing is with the city of Decatur, and that's where our former clerk, Chris Tapper, landed as the village manager. They were in the same boat that we were. They had a rental inspection ordinance on the books, but it was not active for 5 or 6 years. So Chris is like, it's just like what Allegan is, where you have it on the books, but it's not active. It's like Safe Built was able to come in and get us up running, fairly quickly and with little staff involvement. So it wasn't staff constantly having to do the work for them. There is some work at the very beginning where we run the reports in our assessing database to identify all the properties that are assessed as residential but do not have 100% PRE, a principal residential exemption certificate. If you don't have 100% principal residential certificate and you're classified as residential, there's a good chance it's a rental. So we will have to get them that information. We've already run that report with them, and we've shared that information with them. The other thing that's positive about this, they would have a person in the city of Allegan 1 day a week working here. So we will have a building official here. So while, some contractors still might have to, email their plans in or ship their plans in, they will know, let's just pick a day, say it's Thursdays. On Thursdays, there's going to be a building official in town. So they're not, right now, they have to drive to door every time they want to talk to someone. We don't have someone here through our current relationship. So that could be viewed as a positive. Another caveat about this is since we do not have a current rental registration program started, and there is going to be a significant administrative task on their end to get the program up and running, they will require a $3,000 monthly fee for a permit technician to do that administrative work of scheduling, identifying all the rental units, and then begin the process of scheduling those appointments. So in the end, the rental inspection program, they would collect 90% of the fee. The city would get 10% of the fee. This is the annual fee that landlords would have to pay. And then we would also pay a $3,000 a month for the permit technician. In regards to the building services, Safe Built would collect 95% of the building fee. The city would collect 5% of the fee. And that's similar to what we have right now with PCI. It's a 95-5 split with PCI. So there's really no change. The one other downfall in here, and I'm not sure if I addressed that in the memo, was that we will end up losing, I do in my last paragraph, we will end up losing the planning and zoning support that we currently get through PCI. So I made a second phone call to PCI because I really appreciate Lori, and especially I appreciate Lori and I appreciate Jason. Jason has a technical skill with GIS and map making that we got to experience through our master plan development, that losing that talent will be felt by me. I really appreciate when I can call him and he can work on a map and then we view it together through Join Me or some other screen sharing program, and I can see on-the-spot comments on, nudge the line this way. He has a talent that is, hard to duplicate, so. The zoning aspect, I think we can be okay here, handling that aspect, but that map production will be felt. But the master plan is done, so we are happy with that part. Questions about this? We need some discussion.
I was very concerned about losing our relationship with PCI. So Safe Built's gonna have somebody in town one day a week. Where are they other than that? Because sometimes you need that permit on Monday, you don't need it on Thursday, so where are they?
That's a good question. And I will find that out for you exactly. They have Athens, Michigan as their, yeah,
I don't even know where that is.
neither do I. That's why I'm gonna Google it for us.
And St. Louis.
So,
Battle Creek area.
okay, so that's a ways. I mean, that makes Door seem real close. And it's $3,000 a month. Is that a temporary charge?
Yeah, so the $3,000 a month is a temporary charge, and that's why they classify it as a monthly fee. And we throw up there, that's $36,000 for the first year. We will be evaluating that as quickly as our rental inspection program can get up and running, is when that cost will go away.
And we won't have they won't take up any of the zoning stuff that we've gotten from PCI.
That will fall on, our shoulders here.
What does PCI charge us for that?
So PCI zoning is $50 an hour. But PCI will not take up zoning. PCI would not offer zoning unless they get the
All the
building
other stuff,
services,
right.
yeah.
Joel, do you know how the contract rates would compare to PCI? Like, what are we paying PCI?
Yeah, so PCI right now is across the board, $50 per hour. So the contract rates that were in this proposal here, they will go up when we have to pull them in for some contracts. Where I'm at is code enforcement services is $65, so that'd be $15 more an hour. The structural engineering plan review, that is once in a blue moon. That's if, you bring in a structural engineer on a building permit plan review. And that only has to be brought in when the building official says, this is above my knowledge. And we usually incorporate that into the fee schedule. At least that's how we did it in my previous, town I worked for.
But we will be taking in a little bit of revenue because of that rental inspection program and
Yeah, we'll be taking in 10%.
that would offset
Yeah, it
some
will
of the-
offset some of that $3,000 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be bringing in revenue that we didn't bring in before. We will be having an organization that knows what they're doing when it comes to rental inspections, and we'll be able to get our rental inspections, under control, where right now it's not under control. The other thing that Safe Built offers is a proprietary software. So all of their permits and everything is entered into their software. We'll be assigned 3 usernames on that work. And so we'll be able to, like, when someone pulls a building permit, we'll be able to see it now. Where beforehand, we're waiting for PCI to submit the application off here for our assessor to do her work, and it never really gets entered into like a database of some kind.
The last question I had was just regarding any experience that they have with like marijuana ordinances and enforcing that, because it's a little bit of a different animal. If you said they were in Muskegon,
Yeah.
they provide services.
Yep.
Muskegon has.
Muskegon
okay.
has a lot of marijuana retail
Okay.
stores.
So that was the only other concern
I
I
have family
had.
that lives up there. That's
because
how I
we-
know that.
Yeah, we've got a
Yeah.
business that's, I think, building out or was over on Hooker Road, so, yeah, I hate to lose PCI just because of that long-term relationship
Yeah.
that we've had with them, but if that is a focus of ours, this rental inspection, then I am in favor of Safe Built.
Do you have a cost estimation for the landlords?
So the landlords, based on the proposal that they submitted, they would recommend that it's $45 registration fee per unit. And then the inspections, which happens every 3 years, it'd be $150 for the first inspection, and then $75 per unit for a re-inspection after that,
Per unit, not per building.
per unit.
Okay. That was about what it was before.
Okay.
It was $100, I think,
Every year?
every 2 years.
Okay.
So this would be within the same.
Brings up another question. So if the person that is in Allegan once a week is also doing all the inspections, that's not gonna leave them much time to be doing building permits and those types of things.
So the person in Allegan is the building official.
Okay.
The rental inspection is a completely different. Yeah.
Okay. So those are two different, or at
Correct.
least two different individuals, okay.
And we'll follow up with Safe Built just to verify that aspect. I mean, I have a question on the rental fees that they provided here. Yeah, I want to flush that out more, because that's light compared to what I've seen in other places. We had, Michaela went through a bunch of cities to see what they charge. The problem is that every city's ordinance reads differently, and it gets a little convoluted on what the actual cost is. So she's like, this is the best I could do. And then we tried to run our numbers with it on how much it would generate. And this is when we were talking to the fire district to see, did we generate enough fees for this 240,000 over 3 years? And the answer was not even close. So I mean, more or less for tonight, what I'm looking from council is if you want to restart the rental inspection program, which is a goal of yours, the fire district's offer is just not affordable for us. Plus, they've never done rental inspections, and we would have had to provide all the administrative costs for that. So one of the staff members at City Hall would have to schedule the appointments, communicate those to the fire district. They would bring in what the reports are. We'd have to enter in information, type up letters. You failed because of X, Y, Z. Your reinspection date is on this date. It was just a lot of staff intents in addition to that 240,000. The PCI said, yeah, no way. And I asked them, I'm like, please go talk to your owner again. I'm like, they go, it's not worth it for us. Safe Built is a way to move this forward, except we end up losing our relationship that we have with PCI right now. And so if council wants to restart this, these are the options. I mean, it's going to Safe Built, and I need to make sure council is comfortable with us having that conversation.
One last question.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. Did you?
I was curious, what are the regular planning and zoning support services that we're losing?
So regular planning and support zoning services that we get from PCI right now. So for zoning, it is if someone wants to build something new, then they have to submit a site plan for a site plan review through the planning commission. The site plan review is a review of zoning issues, make sure the setbacks from the front yard, side yard, rear yard, and the other side yard, conform to our zoning ordinance. Make sure the lighting, conforms, the signage conforms. And so it's really focused on new development. Zoning is, they have helped us develop new zoning language. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we did the sign ordinance, and we completely rewrote our sign ordinance to be in compliance with the new U.S. Supreme Court's First Amendment speech, where we had to allow people to put sign, we had to regulate the bulk of the sign, not the content of the sign. If I can't remember which council members was on the planning commission at that time. So they provide that service. Occasionally, we ask them to send what's called a zoning violation letter. So if someone has a swimming pool and it doesn't have a fence around it, we ask them to send that zoning violation letter. We ask them to send fence, if someone puts a fence up without having a fence permit or what's typically called a land use permit. Sometimes we ask them to do that. It's a lot of reactive stuff, and it's stuff that's generally done, by your on-staff planner or someone who's gone through that work, so. I would say in the degrees of difficulty, it's not difficult at all.
You feel you have staffing
Yeah.
capacity to absorb that?
Yeah, that's one part that I'm comfortable with. I mean, I alone did site plan reviews for like the first 12 years of my career. So, site plan reviews, and one thing with the city of Allegan, we're so developed already. It's not like we have a new McDonald's, Burger King, bank, factory, machine, tool and die shop popping up, every week, let alone once a year. So, most recently, it would have been the veterinarian clinic and the marijuana grow facility were the big ones. Whereas, truly new construction.
Any more questions for Joel? So are you looking to nods heads, move forward, or?
So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking for people nodding heads for us to move forward. I will tell you right now, what they gave me as a proposal overview isn't tight enough for me. I want to, get more information from them before we agree to make this jump or not. But as mentioned, it was one of your goals for the year. I still think it's very important for this community, and I think this is the best path forward, for us to do it. If we would do it on our own, we'd probably have to buy the building and development module, Tracy, off BSNA, and that's several thousand, if not 10,000 a year annual subscription for their, database. So, and my conversations both with Tim Madej of Zealand, he's their community development director, and Chris Tapper, they were both very comfortable. I know Tim was an intern for the city of Holland when I worked up there. So they're two people that I value their opinion, and they would,
I guess we as a council need to weigh PCI losing them and gaining the other. Because that's in essence what we're going to be doing, correct?
Yeah, if you keep PCI, then you won't have a rental. I do not see a path forward for a rental inspection program.
Without dumping PCI.
Correct. If you keep PCI, I do not see a path forward for a rental inspection program. And I've talked to Lori, my contact at PCI, called her after we met last week, Tracy and I did, and said, hey, it's time to float this up to city council's level for their discussion. So they're well aware of what's happening here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I hate to lose PCI, and I've been on planning commission for a while, and I've worked with them and seen the benefits that they bring, but we need a rental inspection program, and so I think we're losing a lot, but I think we're getting something that the city really needs, and the people of the city really need, so I am reluctantly in favor of it. I mean, I think it'll be good, but I just hate to lose PCI.
Same. I mean, I've only been on planning commission for a while, but Jason is awesome. Just what little bit I've seen him work, and I know PCI has done a lot for the city too, so I hate to lose that connection, but same, if we want to go with rental inspections, I guess, we don't really have a choice at this point. So I would take that as, I'll go ahead and do what you research further, Joel.
All right.
Can I ask one more quick question? Can I have one more quick question? So with this person coming in, will they work out of City Hall? Will they have their own office? They'll work out of City Hall?
Yeah, they work out at City Hall. We have 2 cubicles that are utilized sparingly, I would say. Our assessor uses one, and she's in every other week. And then we have another one where a front office person has a cubicle in the back that isn't used that much, so, plus we have 2 conference rooms.
Okay, great. Next on the agenda is discussion regarding a Historic District Study Commission.
So I'm just going to kick this off. I believe you saw my report. I'm not sure how many people saw the email from Jason Raymaker this morning.
I did.
Okay. Long story short, at the last meeting, last Monday, they made a motion that council appoint a study committee to review the status of the Allegan Historic Districts. Following that meeting, Eddie Keonis Walker formally retired, and I requested that he submit it to us in writing. So we're very clear he is retiring, or resigning from the board, not retiring, I apologize. And then we also received an email from Stacy Todd, because she's been absent from the last two. She told me at Bridgefest that she was gonna step down, and I just reached out to her and said, I really need something in writing. I don't want to get myself in trouble again, just taking someone's verbal resignation, but I need something in writing, so she submitted that as well. That's where they are. But based off Jason's email and his request that you table discussion until he has a chance to talk, I feel he has some things he would like to say to council as a whole. It's really council's prerogative. If you want to talk about what a study committee would look like, I can tell you at the last meeting, resident Paula Mentek was present in the audience and mentioned that she'd be interested in being on the study committee.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I had reached out to Jason after reading his email and asked if he would prefer we not have a discussion at all about the appointment of a study committee. He said, and I explained that we don't take any action in study session, but it's just an opportunity for discussion. He said he would be comfortable with that occurring if we wanted to talk about it. I then just asked him, based on the report and his email, if he felt that the study commission, the tasks that they would be looking at would kind of comply with our ordinance language, which was like elimination, addition, reduction of different districts. And he said that he did feel like that would be accurate and it would kind of fall under that ordinance language. So just so council is aware, he was okay if we did have a discussion. I mentioned to him that I would advocate that we have an agenda item put on our next regular meeting agenda. So if that's something the mayor would like, or if I could get a support for that, we could get him on the agenda so he can come in and discuss.
Would it be better to do it in a study session so we had more time to actually talk?
We could, we just don't have study session on the 24th
Oh.
of June because,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And he said he would like more time than just, if we read the emails, he'd wanted a little bit more time than the 3 minutes allotted in public comment. So that was just an option that we could do, get that on the agenda for June 24th, regular meeting, or if we want to put that out to the first meeting in August as a study session. We could, but then they would probably have already had another meeting by that point.
Feel a little like Groundhog's Day. I'm very frustrated, I'll be honest.
Me too. Right now, be honest, I feel like the historic district is pulling what they want, not what council wants. They're telling us what we need to do.
Correct. It's like, it's my basketball, I'm going home with it. That's how I get their feeling, that that's what they're trying to do.
But they are an advisory committee that we did task with a study that came back, and they have come forward a couple times with recommendations that we have not followed through with on their behalf, so. I mean, I would like to hear what Jason has to say. I explained in an email I sent him, I felt like there was just so much noise around all of this, that it was really hard to, I felt like I knew what I was hearing, but I just want to kind of confirm that that's where that group is at now. If they want to continue with the work, what that study session or study group would look like, because what they're doing is what we've asked them to do with that commission, is to take a look at each of the properties, determine if they're, contributing, non-contributing, but they want to be actually appointed so they can bring forward those recommendations and we could eliminate or reduce size. Is that accurate, Mike? Am I, okay.
Any other discussion on this for? I mean, if Jason wants to come in, can we put that on an agenda item to give us a presentation on the 24th, Joel, or what do we
Yeah,
got?
I think
We
there's
have-
a section of the agenda that says special presentations or discussion, and, or I could just put it under city managers, I mean, and I think the Laura's right, the mayor can add anything they want to the agenda, or one council member with a vote of another
I'm
one.
just, yeah, I know. I'm just asking if we got a load already, that, because it is, we don't have a study session, so,
I don't foresee a lot of action items coming your way
okay,
for that meeting.
okay. So, yeah, I'm fine with putting it on, letting Jason know that,
The summer months, we're typically just working right now. Council's already approved, the budget's done, projects have been approved, and we're working.
I know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like Jason, I respect him, and I think he's got a great heart for this. It's just, yeah, it's just hard,
Yeah,
so.
I-
Yeah,
It
I'd
is hard.
Love to
I'm-
give him his,
I know some of the hard work that was done by some of the other members, so. Yeah, if you want to put that on the agenda, then,
We can do that.
thank you. Next on the agenda is review of the May revenue and expenditure report. Tracy, do you have anything to point out on this? Are we good?
I don't have anything.
Anything? Okay. Did anybody have any questions on that? Okay. So, guess we're good on that. Next is the review of the council agenda for tonight. Did we have any questions on that or any changes on that? Don't think so. Okay. If there is nothing else, did anybody think of anything else that they wanted to talk about?
just something we were kind of chit-chatting about before study session started, and since we've got a couple of minutes. Is the plan, I know Locust is going to be started on next week or so. Is the plan waiting until all three roads are at the stage where Brady and Hubbard are now, and then doing the asphalt all at once?
Yeah, so to answer your first question that I think I heard in there about Locust Street, we have our regular progress report meeting on Tuesday afternoons. So tomorrow afternoon, we will have a better idea of when they're going to get started. It's my understanding that they won't start the work on Locust until what I guess I would call the first phase, Brady and East Hubbard, are opened to vehicular traffic, and then they'll move their teams over there. And right now, that first phase, again, Brady and East Hubbard, they're waiting on electrical work, which will include the conduit placement and the street lamps, and then they can follow along with the sidewalk work.
Oh.
And then at that point in time, they'll have like a base coat for the street with like chalked lines for parking and traffic, and then they'll open up that area and then move to Locust.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then,
So are those things, and I know you haven't heard your update yet, but are those things going to happen in the next few weeks?
correct, yes, yep,
Excellent.
yeah.
That's exciting.
Very. And then the answer to your last question, yes, is the answer. They will have their top coat done in November, and that's an effort to make sure it's pretty seamless. Everything, is put in at the same time. Nothing looks a little bit aged versus what's being put on brand new at that point in time. So that final top layer of all the streets will happen in November.
But they'll be open and drivable before
Correct.
then, which is really nice.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really great.
Speaking of the streetscape project, I noticed like curb cutouts for a hotel development area. I was just wondering if we could get an update on
Sure.
that.
Yeah, so last week I received, or 2 weeks ago, I received an email from the MEDC inquiring about the city's contribution to the development and whether or not the boardwalk is ADA accessible along the Kalamazoo River, the Wood Boardwalk. So I responded in kind that our contribution is the $9 million streetscape project we're doing downtown. And, yes, that the boardwalk is, accessible and, has pedestrian amenities and, the community very much enjoys it. What the MEDC is looking for is something that is a contribution directly to that project. We've done this in the past with an OPRA, so an Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act certificate. So we have done a handful of those on the MEDC projects. For this one, we will be asked to do what's called a Commercial Redevelopment Act tax certificate, where it's a 50%, forgiveness just, on the property. That is similar to the PA 198, the Industrial Facility Tax Abatements that we've done multiple times, most recently for Tantric's investment in their distillery tap room over on Water Street. So that's where we are. I would say it's positive that the MEDC is, asking us those questions. That means they got through the first round of review, and, the state is supporting this application and project. They're fully aware that the development agreement, so by they, I mean the developers are fully aware that the development agreement says they have to be occupied by the end of 2024. So it's about a 12-month building project. And so what I've told the developers, if we ain't making, movement by November, expect a very serious question from, discussion to occur with the city. We need to know what's going on. Because, from day one, it's always been 2024. Even with the previous developer, it's always 2024 when I have the hotel up and running. So, yeah, that's the update on where we are with the hotel.
Thank you.
Is there anything else anybody would like to discuss? Okay, if not, I'm going to adjourn the study session at 6:47, and we will reconvene the regular meeting at 7 o'clock. Thank you. It is 7 o'clock. I would like to call our regular meeting to order, please. At this time, Michaela, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zeter,
Present.
Councilmember Hands, Councilmember Andrus,
Here.
Councilmember Redding,
Here.
Councilmember Morgan,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Byrd,
Here.
and Mayor Galloway.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Hands.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, if we would all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for those who stood. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Approval of the regular council meeting agenda for July 10, 2023.
Motion
Yes.
to approve?
I'll support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is number 5, approval of minutes. 5A, approval of the regular meeting minutes from June 26, 2023 council meeting. Did we have anything different on that? Okay.
I move to approve the regular meeting minutes.
I'll support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is public comment. That is for any item that is not on the agenda. I would ask that you please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Hello, my name is Ron Jones. I was in here 2 weeks ago, and I'm actually this board for more than 3 minutes, because when I came in here last week, I was really upset. And I don't really think nobody in this room understood the legalities in the situation that I'm in. So if you guys can bear with me, I would bear with you if that's all right. Thank you. There's a backstory to this. Here's your guys' ordinance, first of all. I've only made 2 copies. Ordinances should read what I can understand. For a bill that somebody, whoever, Joe Eli, is Joe Eli in here?
That's me.
Okay, all right. Whoever he is Danielle Turd in here.
Nope, Danielle Byrd is not here.
Okay, Daniel Bird?
Byrd.
Oh, I apologize for butchering her name. That's what a real person does when you mean their apology. Here's you guys, I'm just gonna have you a couple copies, but here's you guys' ordinance for your water bill. Nowhere in plain English where a layman like me can understand that it's have to pay anything if the water's not hooked up. But we're gonna keep going past that real quick because I don't wanna get distracted or sidetracked.
Ron, excuse me just a moment. I need to stay behind the microphone because we are recorded.
I will.
And that way it can hear.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's not a problem. Okay. Like I say, there's a backstory to this. Like I say, today I'm a little bit better than when I came in here last 2 weeks ago. Because I was highly upset. I'm still upset right now, but I think I can explain it a little bit better now. I own this house at 217 Lincoln for over 8 months. I bought it from the city of Allegan in their auction. Everything was disclosed about the house except for a bill, whatever you guys call it, RTS, and I would get to that too. I paid the taxes. In September, I bought the house. January, I paid the winter taxes. Still no bill. I didn't receive a bill until May in my name, and I have the bill right here for May. It even has water usage on it. Why would I see? If I didn't have the water turned on, I shouldn't have a bill in my name. I think we all can agree to that. You're not looking for a bill that's owning a house for 8 months with your name on a bill that you did not request. So whoever, Danielle Byrd, let me get this right because I don't want to butcher her name again because I don't want to apologize to her again at all. Danielle Byrd, after talking to her, when the bill comes out, she says she can squash the usage. She says there's ordinances that states why I had to pay usage. I asked her to send me the usage. the ordinance. She didn't do it. Her smart remark was, when I talked to her on the, 2 weeks ago, her smart remark was, when I asked about that, was she doesn't control the mail. Danielle Bird also told me, I'm lucky that she didn't backdate it. That is a threat. Plain and simple, that's a threat. It's identity theft also, because she didn't have my permission to put my name on nothing. And nobody in here would want that to happen to them. Okay, after this meeting 2 weeks ago, I get 2 phone calls from, one from Joel Dye, or Joel Dye, whatever it is, and a secretary. The secretary was not Danielle, the woman who made the threat, the bully, as I would like to call her now, because if she didn't mean what she said, she should have been woman enough to say, Mr. Jones, I really apologize if this is what you thought I meant as a threat. She didn't do it. She put somebody in front of her. And I know for a fact this is not the first time. And if you guys keep letting her get away with that, she's going to keep on doing it. Everybody you can't threaten and think they're just going to shut up and be quiet. And I happen to be one of them. I'm tired of you guys kicking the can down the road because I'm the can. It's time to stop kicking this can. Per law, did you ask her, why did she put my name on for water? Joel, did you ask her that?
Ron, just so you know, we do not interact with you.
Oh, okay.
And your 3 minutes are up.
I figured that was going to happen, right? Because why? You guys don't want to stand up for the right reason. If she didn't mean it as a threat, she would apologize herself. Why did he ask her? Why did she say it? And why would he use an analogy for something trying to belittle me? Because I own my own business. I can leave and go for 30 days too. If my water was on in my name, I would have no problem. I know you're turning red right now because you're really embarrassed because you're lying.
Ron, your time is up behind the podium, please. Thank you.
I'd like to resolve resolution to this by in 2 weeks, please, from this board, so I don't have to go any further with this. But getting a lawyer, because I will. If I paid that much for that raggedy house, I would get a lawyer just to embarrass this. That's why they stand up, because there's not liberty and justice for everybody.
Ron, I have asked you 3 times now. Please, your time is up.
See, this is what I mean. That's how you guys talk down to people.
I'm not talking down to you.
Have a nice day.
You too, thank you.
Yeah. Whatever threat you get.
My name is Zebediah Flora, and I own, I bought the property on 130 Park Ave about 2 years ago now. I've been paying a water bill. There's been no house there for 15 years. It burnt down. There's no even water meter. There's no even water lines. You can't even, there's no even possible way to hook up water. I didn't ask for water. I don't know how I got a bill in my name. I feel like, basically, I feel like I'm getting stole from. Like, I didn't ask for the service, nor can Allegan even provide me with the service. And obviously, I'm not the only one, and I've been paying my bill just because, so I get them off my back, but I don't really agree with it. I pretty much feel like,
Go farther as well.
yes, I'm about to get a lawyer as well. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Does that make sense?
Want us to pay $5,000 to have it shut off. Hastings, Kent is $0 to
But it's
shut
not
off.
on to shut off.
And
Don't you
it's-
think they
and-
probably shut it off when the house burnt down?
No,
Like,
they
isn't
gave
the
us-
water
they gave us
shut
proof
off?
that It's been being.
No, there's no proof
But I don't believe it.
that you can't use it. Are they gonna come put a line up there for me and a meter outside? Because I don't see how it can be used.
Kent County's $0, Hastings $0 to shut off. It's $50 to reconnect.
And I already pay my water bill right next door at
How much was it, though?
136.
I wanna know when we first started this 2 years ago. How much was it then to shut off?
And I actually.
Before you guys dinked me around for 6 months.
Well, I'm gonna get my money back either way, and I'm gonna get a lawyer. That's all I have to say.
We'll be back. Thank you for your time.
I will do with a lawyer next 2 weeks. Guaranteed. Maybe June 17
We'll
also.
be at the next one because we're going on vacation.
Don't worry about that. I'll take your place.
Good evening. My name's Paul Wiley at 643 Sherman Street. I've been an Allegan resident for almost 35 years. And I'm a retired Extension Agriculture and Natural Resources agent with Michigan State University, retired in 2010. I'd like to bring your attention, if you have not already encountered them, that we have a pretty severe gypsy moth problem in the city. If you would like proof of that or like to see it firsthand, I suggest a tour through the Oakwood Cemetery. It's really bad up there. They're close to totally defoliating some of those big oak trees. And that's quite a stress on the trees. You will see them decline, lose extra limbs, be subject to other problems like chestnut borer, things like that. But they're quite an annoyance for a resident. A lot of cut leaves on the ground, a lot of caterpillar frass on the ground that stains the decks, the driveways, the walks, etc. Bottom line, I'd like to encourage the city to look into a spray program, a suppression program. Back in the 90s, when I was on city council, the state sponsored one and the county participated. There is no state program these days, but a number of cities participate or work with a program. Sandy Pines sprays for them in the spring. You would do that early May, but they're just about done feeding right now, and you'll soon see the little brown moths flying all over very erratically and laying eggs to go again another year. They hatch early May. Okay, so I would like to encourage you to look into an aerial spray program. That's the easiest thing to do because they're way up on the top of the trees and you just can't hardly get to them otherwise. But it can be quite effective, nominal impacts. They use a product that's approved for organic farming and gardening. A Google search would help you see. The city Kentwood has a program, and I think they cooperate with some other cities up there in the Grand Rapids area. But take a look at it. I would volunteer to consult. I don't want any work. I don't want the job of it, being a coordinator or anything like that, but I would offer my consultation experience with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Really glad I'm going after you. Thank you. My name is Sarah Raymaker. I live at 334 Marshall Street, and I'm here to express my disappointment and frustration with recent communications and decisions at the city level over my 2 applications to join the Historic District Commission. Before I ever applied the first time, I asked if there was a conflict of interest with my husband, Jason Raymaker, currently serving on the HDC. I was told no. So I filled out the 3-page application. Wasn't a big deal, but I just want to stress that it is 3 pages. I submitted that on June 4th, shortly before the meeting where you all would have considered that. I got a phone call saying that I was the 3rd application for 2 open seats, and the applications are selected first come, first serve. So that's a little frustrating to me that there's a 3-page application and it's just whoever raises their hand first gets picked. I'm thinking there's some disconnect there. Those 2 seats were filled. I'm fine with that. I took the criticism and I continued on. I continued to attend the meetings regardless of whether I was on the board or not. At the July 5th HDC meeting last week, 2 more people resigned. So there are now 2 open seats on the board. So later that evening, July 5th, hearing that there was no conflict of interest previously, I resubmitted my application. And after a few emails and phone calls, I was informed today that there is in fact a conflict of interest and that I cannot serve on the board. Listen, I respect that reasoning, okay? But I'm asking you to be clear and consistent in your communication, especially with a hot topic issue like the HDC. And I'm also asking you not to insult my intelligence and my integrity. Yes, I am married to Jason. Many of you know me, and I dare say you know that Jason doesn't tell me what to think. He doesn't tell me what to say. He doesn't tell me what to do. He's not here telling me what to say. He's at work, okay?
So please use consistent communication, use consistent reasoning, maybe speak to me before making that decision. And if you're gonna have a 3-page application, let's not do it like a little ticker tape at the deli. Might be a good idea. I know you've got more decisions ahead of you in terms of the HTC, and I lift you up in those decisions. I hope they go well. I'll probably still be in the audience, and just because I'm not on the board doesn't mean I'm not invested, and doesn't mean I'm gonna shut up and sit down. But right now, I will shut up and sit down. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Any more public comment? I don't see anyone else in attendance. Next on the agenda is number 11, reports from boards, commissions, and city offices. 11A, city boards, commissions, and area agencies. 11A1, election commission, June 28th meeting. Michaela?
Yes, so very quickly, I've reported to council a few times about the process of redistricting our election precincts, and the whole process necessitated the election commission to meet in order to approve the changes before it could come to the council level. That's per, I believe, state law. So it was a unanimous vote with one member absent to go ahead and approve the resolution and the map to be presented to council at this meeting.
One question.
Is there any? Oh, sure, go ahead.
I was surprised to see that, if I'm reading this correctly, it's just Joel Parker on the board, and then you're in attendance. Is there any, is it just the one other member?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. There aren't, I mean, are there rules about, like, staff being on boards, and for the election commission, don't we need?
No, our charter does not specify anything like that.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay. Moving on to 11A2, the Historic District Commission July meeting. Mike, you gonna take this?
Yeah. We met, we had a quorum. We had 3 properties and one new build. And the 3 properties had already started and finished work. But their work was replacement windows, which is just the sash. And they were done within the specs. The new build, we added in a freeze board to match the house. The roof line was a little bit different, but that was okay because it's a new build. So everything. Yep.
That was all that was discussed?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next, the Finance Department, 11B. 11B1, request to approve accounts payable and payroll. Roger, please.
We have accounts payable in the amount of $473,920.85 and a payroll in the amount of $173,070.72 for a total disbursement of $646,991.57. And make a motion to approve.
I so move.
I'll support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is 11B2, request to approve the annual auditing services contract with Siegfried Crandall. Joel or Tracy?
I got this.
Sure. Okay.
Annually, we have you guys review this engagement letter and service agreement sent from the auditors. We usually have our audit in September each year. And this year, the purchase order is also attached with the information you guys received. And this year, we're gonna have a not-to-exceed amount of $24,000 for our audit. This audit's for the fiscal year 2023, so July 1st, 22 to June 30, 2023. And the other thing I wanted to point out was that we budgeted $23,500, so if they do all the single audit stuff, which most likely they will with the money that we've received, I might have to do a budget adjustment of $500, but it'll just depend on how much the audit comes in at.
Thank you, Tracy. Does anybody have any questions for Tracy regarding this? Like Tracy said, it's something we do every year. Okay, can I get a motion, please?
I so move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is 11B3, request to approve the MERS contribution addendum and agreement. Joel, Tracy?
I can handle this one.
All right.
Yeah, so what we're asking council to do tonight is to close the police chief division of our defined benefit program. To give council some background information, the city, up to a couple years ago, offered two types of retirement programs. A defined contribution program, which if you're in the private sector, it's like a 401k, where your employer either matches what your contribution is, or they just give you a straight contribution. In the city of Allegan, all employees that are on the defined contribution program, and that includes all employees minus the police department, receive a straight 10% deposit of their annual wages into the 401k. And I'll call it, there's a different number that Tracy will correct me, but it's your 401k is what it really is. In the most recent police negotiations, we negotiated to close the police division and the command division. So all new hires in the police department could not be on the defined benefit anymore. They had to go to that defined contribution. A defined benefit is one where it's your typical pension that you may recall. Maybe your grandparents or parents received the old school pension. We have what I believe is a B4 pension, where the last 5 years of your employment, the highest 5 years of your employment, they take that average, and then they multiply the number of years you worked for the city and multiply that by 2.5%. So, and it caps out at 80% of your salary. So we close that for all police command and police officer divisions as well. So all those have been closed. The only one that remains open is the police chief division. And the reason we didn't close it at that time is because that was part of a union negotiation, and the police chief is not part of a union negotiation, so it just kind of more or less not slipped our minds, but, was forgot about. The current contract we have with Jay Gibson as our police chief states that by the time he is age 50, he will have to be transferred to the police, to a defined contribution program, just like all department heads. So for us to do that, so what we would need to do now is we need to close this division out, because in that contract, we also have language that say any new police officer that becomes a police chief will be on the defined contribution program as well. So this closes all defined benefit programs. It stymies our legacy costs that are really affecting a lot of, or stymies our legacy costs, which is affecting a lot of the other cities, Saginaw, Flint, Detroit, larger cities, what they're dealing with. And it puts everybody into a defined contribution program.
Anybody have any questions for Joel? Could we get a motion, please?
I'll move to approve the contribution addendum and agreement for MERS.
I support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have 11F, which is City Manager and City Clerk. 11F1, request to adopt Resolution 23.24 to redistrict election precincts. Oh, Michaela, you gonna take this?
Yeah, I can take this one.
Thank you.
So on the screen, you'll see the map that is also included in the packet, which is the new layout for the precincts. Currently, if we were to keep the precinct boundaries that we have right now, Precinct 1 would have about 33% of our registered voters, while Precinct 2 would have 67%, which leaves it very unbalanced for election inspectors on election day, and it leads to a long wait time as well for those that reside in Precinct 2. Working with the county GIS office, we were able to come up with this map, which just follows the Kalamazoo River. So if you reside west of the river, then you would be in Precinct 1, and if you reside east of the river, you'd be in Precinct 2. So it's a little easier for a voter to figure out which precinct they might be in, as opposed to our current map. And does council have any questions about the new boundary?
I don't have any questions, Michaela, but I think that this has been a long time coming, and I appreciate all the work to do that. Having worked at the last election, it was a marked difference. So, thank you.
Anything else?
If there's no other questions, then I move to adopt Resolution 23.24 to redistrict the election precincts.
I support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Michaela. Okay, next on the agenda is communications from city manager, council, and mayor. Tracy, do you have anything?
I do not.
Thank you. Michaela?
Nothing for me.
Parker?
Nothing tonight.
Joel?
Just very quickly, Friday night, we had several members of the public approach Parker and Ryan and myself throughout the evening, just to let us know how excited they are about what's going on in Allegan and how thankful they are that, we're taking the strides we're making. In addition to that, they personally told me how good of a team we have on this Friday night concert series, and I just wanted to share some of that shout out about what Parker and Ryan pull off every Friday night down at the riverfront. To give up your Friday nights every week is pretty cool.
Thank you. Bill, do you have anything?
I don't, but my wife had a question. Can we ask a question? Maybe Joel, someone can answer me. Metal frames with plastic, people use them for garages. Is that a temporary structure?
I'll contact our building official and inquire about that.
You know
I
what
know
I'm talking about?
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, because some of them are permanent. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The only question I had.
Dave, do you have anything?
Yeah, what is the conflict of interest that prevents Sarah from being on the HDC?
So the conflict of interest, so the first go-around, we had three applications come in for two, and then Sarah inquired, because I believe she was at the meeting before, the HDC meeting, and I said, I don't think there's much of an issue. This go-around, it was brought to our attention that we have had spouses resign from boards before another spouse was brought on. But that wasn't a decision made by at the city, staff level. As all appointments to boards, those are done through the mayor, bringing them for appointments. So
So there's not a rule?
I don't believe there's a rule. I believe there's a past practice that we have followed here at City Hall.
That was, when it was brought up to me, no specific names were used. It just said, would we allow a husband and wife to serve on the same board? And my immediate thought was our past practices, and I didn't know if we had an ordinance, but our past practices have been when there was a husband and wife on the same board or in that type of situation, that we would have one step down in the past. And so my response was, that's what we've done in the past. I don't know how we would explain it to the others who had to step down if we would now let a husband and wife serve on the board. So that, when I was asked, that was my opinion. I have every confidence that Sarah speaks her mind and that Jason does not tell her what to do. That's not my, and I didn't know it was the Raymakers when we started the conversation. But consistency, I thought it would be bad form for us to now have a husband and wife on the same board.
What about the first chosen for the applications? Why is there an application if it's?
Well, why is there, I think you bring up a good point, why is there a 3-page application? I mean, if we just threw names out, I mean, if it's just first in, yeah. Right. I would agree with you. I think we should choose the most qualified rather than just a first come, first serve.
Yeah, I would have thought for 2 open spots, we would get 3 applications, and we'd go, oh, this is a tough choice, but.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
Joel, I do believe that the bylaws and that for the HDC and all the other boards that have been created are, like, spell that out.
You could.
I'm just saying that's where I know that
Which part,
we've followed
Tracy?
that in the past.
Which part?
The bylaws for both, it should spell all of that out, especially the husband and wife or conflict of interest or, that kind of thing. I've seen that in bylaws for different things. And it should be in with the HDC as well, but I mean, I haven't read that in a long time, but I know that stuff has come up before.
That's
And
not
it
for weekend reading?
There's stuff with the council too. You can't do that, but I know it exists somewhere.
Because I know we had somebody on a committee, and when they married, the other spouse was on, or the other partner was on, and the one that was on the committee resigned because she didn't think it was right to stay on there. I did not know about the bylaws, I'll be honest with you.
To be clear, I'm not
So,
arguing that that's your practice and your bylaw, but that's not the reason I was given first, so it just seems a little suspect, especially with my husband's viewpoints. But they're not necessarily mine, and I don't agree with other decisions made with patients. You might like mine better.
Okay. Anything else, Dave?
Yeah, for the folks with the water bills, I mean, if they had their water shut off, because we've got a shut-off fee, does that stop the bill?
So there's a difference between a shut-off and a disconnect. They have what I'm going to call, Tracy, correct me if I use the wrong language, but they have a water service line and a sewer lateral to each of their properties. So even though they may not have a structure, and that service line may not be connected, they have a stub there, even though it may not be connected. Your ordinance and your policy that was adopted, I believe in 2021, established that you have to permanently disconnect it. You have to take it back to the main if you don't want to pay the ready-to-serve fee. The fact that we have a stub at that property means we are ready to serve you. In a moment's notice, you can put a pipe connected to it and a structure on that property and start receiving water. You don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of connecting to the main.
Why is there a bill though already since they aren't drawing water?
So on all utility bills, mine included, every resident, all of yours, you pay 2 fees on your water bill. You pay a ready-to-service fee that is established, and it's for every single property owner. It's a flat fee depending on the meter size, and then you pay a commodity fee. The commodity fee is the consumption fee. You use 5 gallons, I use 10 gallons, therefore mine is 10 times or twice as much as yours. So they are arguing that they should not pay that ready-to-serve fee, even though the properties they own have a stub.
And the other thing I would add with that too is if you go away for 2 months, you're gonna pay that ready-to-serve fee, whether you use any water or not. And the problem is, they purchase those properties without knowing how, the ordinances and things like that and how it works. It's, and it helps us maintain the infrastructure. That's the point of it.
Yeah, I mean, so, I understand that.
They're getting charged the ready-to-serve fee, not the commodity fee.
I will
And
I will make one, because what Ron Jones said, and what happens is Danielle discovered when she was reviewing the tax records to update the utility billing program, that he had purchased the property way back when. But instead of billing him back, she just billed him at the start of that date, which was in April or May. He got the first bill in May, so I think she discovered it in April. Then what happens is she assumes that maybe somebody's living there, so she estimated a bill for water usage. But she reversed that when he said that he's fixing it up and, you know, and that. So she had charged him an estimated bill. When he called in, that stuff happened. She reversed that, and she did explain to him that she doesn't control the mail. He took it as sarcastic. She's just very matter of fact, and she's very helpful to people, but at that point, you know, it was just an estimated bill. She reversed it. She told him she would do that. She did that immediately. So it was 0. So the only thing he's been charged is the ready to serve.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. He doesn't want to hear it.
Doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, we got the phone call. It was myself and Tracy. I think council knows I do not have a secretary. As a professional female that was on that phone with me.
Our head of
The
finance.
conversation was 15 minutes, and he was not satisfied with the answer at the end. And I think that afterwards, I believe that's when council got an email about just the whole process is mostly focused on Park Avenue. The same day, we called both of them on that day.
So they're both not understanding what it is then.
Yeah. And so, there's been attempts made to explain it, and they don't want the answer. So, I mean, I hate for them to want to escalate, but maybe the best option is for them to get a lawyer and have the lawyer tell them you don't have a leg to stand on. And I mean, that might be if they're not taking staff's word for it, maybe a lawyer will be able to explain to them.
What
that-
we explained to the people on Park Avenue that we would be willing to bring to council, because it's only council can, adjust the fee schedule, is we've identified that they've paid a little more than $900 in ready-to-serve fees for that vacant lot next to the one that they own jointly.
Ready to serve is only $15 or something, right? It's
So what we said is we'd be willing to, bring something to council to say, hey, let's credit that $900-some to that disconnection fee. And then we could put them on a payment plan over time that eventually it just comes off.
And that would reduce the $5,000 that,
Yeah.
and technically it's supposed to be more than that according to Doug because there's labor and materials.
If we rip up the
But
road.
we just told him the fee that we have established for the disconnect and then offered the credit of what they've already paid. And we kind of left it thinking that she was going to send us the request so that we could then do an agreement to put either as a an assessment to the taxes, and we can do that over, I think it was a 5-year period, like a payment plan type thing. But we never got the email.
Is this property in both their names?
No, and I believe that was in my email I sent to you
Yes,
as well.
that's what I
that,
thought I read.
I'm gonna mix it up, but one property is in both their names and one is just in the husband's. I believe it's the husband's name.
That's what I thought.
And so for them to even to combine the parcels, they have to put into both their names, which isn't, I mean, it's pretty easy. You just need a quick claim deed. Yes, a quick claim is interest to both of their interests, so that's a process they can work with.
Still get the use for that lot.
Correct.
I'm not sure
Correct.
where this property is. Is it buildable?
Yeah, there was a house on it, there was a house fire. I believe they purchased it. Was that a county sale probably? And that's the other thing, that a comment was made that that someone bought a house off the city of Allegan. The city doesn't sell houses. That goes through the county tax foreclosure process.
Okay.
The city does not have a tax foreclosure process. That is a county. Just for clarification.
Would it be possible to get a letter written to each of these individuals, just kind of outlining that, so council knows what has been stated, so when they come back?
Yeah, so staff, I believe we have sent in communication to Mr. Jones, because we sent the ordinance, and I think we sent stuff as well to.
We did not do a letter. We just,
I think
the
something
date-
You gave
official.
it, yeah.
and it was
Other than
just
a
print-offs.
conversation, you know, a telephonic communication, there can be some misinterpretation. But if it's in writing, we would have that, you know,
Yeah.
in their files, whatever,
Yeah.
to know that we've explained.
That's something staff can do.
Okay.
We can send a letter out this week.
That would, yeah, and maybe that would help just for them to be able to sit and read through it. And maybe it would help explain it for them. Because, you know, when you're upset, maybe you don't hear things the right, you know, hear
Right.
things as they're being said.
Okay. David, anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Delora?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Thank you. Mike? No. Roger?
Nope.
Okay. I want to ask Joel, we did have the first wayfinding phone call. It was very interesting. Are you going to be sending out an email to Delora and I for the follow-up meetings and when them are going to take place and kind of what the steps were, Joel?
Yeah, so.
Because I know they rattled
Yep.
off a bunch of stuff.
Yep, that email was supposed to go out last week, but we've been,
Okay.
there's other things going on last week that needed staff's attention. So we plan on sending that out hopefully tomorrow. Parker and I will find time to wrap our heads around and get that taken care of.
Okay, great, thank you. The other thing I would like to say is that our thoughts and prayers are with the people who were affected by the July 3rd incident. So if anybody doesn't have anything else, I am going to adjourn this meeting at 7:43.